Hey, what's going on? It's Rob Snowhite. In this episode, we're going to talk about sliders. But first, there's some breaking news with the crayfish. Over there, George is in big trouble. So on Friday night, Martha molted and she got her right big pincher back. And I went to show the pixie and we ended up spooking Martha and she did her little thing right into George. Now, George grabbed her with his large pincers and killed her with one big clamp. And then he proceeded to break her in half and eat her in front of my 8-year-old, who's now traumatized, but now she knows that eat or get eaten. Speaking about getting eaten, we're going to talk about sliders today. My favorite all-time topwater bass fly is my scorpion bug. And I'm going to tell you how I got to that. I'm going to show you how to tie it. This is the scorpion bug. Let me show you how to tie this thing. But first, why? So I grew up fishing Lake Audubon and Reston. I had a canoe for many years, and I would fly fish from water towards shore, aiming at structure. There's not a whole lot of branches in the water. RA Rescue Association would clean them out, so you don't have stumps and branches. But you have docks and pontoon boats and other boats in the water. Bass all hang out underneath them. So we would cast Sneaky Pete's at them. That's your Sneaky Pete. And we would catch some huge largemouth. In fact, the first largemouth I ever caught on my first Orvis fly rod. First cast, Sneaky Pete, caught the largest largemouth of my life at that time on Lake Audubon. We also would fish from shore. That time I caught the big bass. I was standing on a dock or a shoreline. So you cast out and bring it towards you. And I wanted a fly that would go along, but not make a big chugging sound and displace a lot of water. I want something that's just going to skate across the surface like a water strider in the surface film that has the silhouette of something that a bass would eat. Now, bass, largemouth spotted stripers, they're all kind of dumb, and they need to eat whatever comes their way, whether it's edible or not. We learned that about trout in a podcast with Art recently. I forgot to say in that podcast that I think pigeons are just like trout. You ever see a pigeon in the park? They're going to put everything in their mouth because they don't have the option of trying something that may or may not be food. They have to try everything to see if they can eat it. That's what fish do. So I came up with a fly that sits on the surface like this. It has a big profile. It's got rubber legs that move, a balanced keel tail, dorso ventrally flattened. It is dirt cheap to tie. It's easy to tie. If I only had one topwater fly for bass for the rest of my life, I would choose this. I have never really made another slider before because I think this is perfect. I've never been able to sell this to any company for them to pick it up commercially. So where do I use this? I use this all over the boat. If we're going to be fishing in lily pads, we're going to put a 30-pound weed guard on it. Most times, no weed guard at all. You can throw this on 3 to 8 weight because it's foam, it's flattened, it's not made out of dense cork, it's not made out of balsa, it's not made out of deer hair. This will never sink, this will never break, this will never crack. You don't need to epoxy it, you don't need to solarize it. This fly is perfect the way it is. You can bounce it off docks, walls, pontoon boats. It will never break. So let's figure out how I came to this. So I ran out of viable Sneaky Pete's years ago. So I had to come up with a fly that looked like it with similar action for topwater on the lake. Ideally, this fly also had to be buoyant enough to hold up a dropper fly, specifically Snowhite damsel. So my first iteration is this, tied on a small bass hook, Snowhite foam, super hair. It works great. It dives, it comes up, it dives, it comes up, pauses. You can walk the dog with it. That was the first iteration. Then I tied one for the ocean and saltwater. Same thing, pretty cool. Then I wanted to add legs to it, and it started getting bigger and bigger. And I came up with this. This is one of the first ones. This is about 18 years old. It's on a bass hook, which I no longer use. And if you tie this with a if you tie this with a non-slip mono loop, you can walk the dog with this fly. You can see how old it is, and it still works. Can't tell you how many fish this thing has caught. You can see it's got 8-pound mono here, 8-pound mono dropped off the back. Very, very cool fly. What you need to tie it, we're going to start off with 8808 Orvis size 2 4X long hook. We're going to make a tail of, again, ultra hair. I use this stuff. It's really thick and dense. And I only have it like this in this color. So all these flies are pretty much going to be chartreuse and yellow. If you look now, that was a glance at all the different colors I can tie, but I prefer this one. The body is going to be just itself, some chartreuse chenille. I'm not using Estaz, I'm not using Crystal Flash chenille, those are more expensive. I need a piece of foam. We're going to use a piece of Snowhite foam, and then we're going to add some rubber legs to it. These come in medium. I wish these came in a little bit larger. These are like angel hair pasta. I really want something a little thicker, more like spaghetti. They make larger ones by Rainey's, but those are too dense and thick for my legs. So I originally would used to cut out foam like this. Take some Snowhite foam, and I've got it somewhere in here in blue and yellow. And I would cut it, and then I'd have to round it off. It looks pretty good this way. That's all you do is fold it over. But I never really liked the way this came out. So I started looking at my Chernobyl ant molds from River Run Creations. I think they're in Montana. Gave them a call and said, could you make me a custom cutter that's basically like an emery board or a large popsicle stick? And they got back to me with this. I just had to give them the dimensions. And they cut it and made it and molded it. It comes with a cutting pad. And I have made a lot of these, and it's still laser sharp. So thus, I now have Snowhite scorpion bug, Snowhite foam for these. Now the reason I call it a scorpion bug is when it sits like this, it kind of looks like a scorpion. So I'm going to take my size 2 4X long hook in my Regal, and I'm going to now pick up my scissors. 210 flat wax denier. Doesn't matter where I start it, but I need to get it down here. And I'm going to measure, because this fly is all about balance. The tail and the legs are all the same length. I've already got it pre-measured, so it's the same size as the hook. I'm going to cut out a chunk, and I'm going to tie that down. That's it. It is sealed on there. It's never coming off. The next step, I told you, this is an easy fly. You can tie this in 3 minutes once you've tied them. Right there. The largest bass we've ever caught from the canoe was on one of these. We got a 3.92 pound largemouth last year. I told my client to cast in the slack water between 2 rocks, and there it was, largemouth. I've caught stripers on these. I've caught bluegill. I've caught schoolie stripers. I've caught largemouth, smallmouth, striped bass. Green sunfish like to eat it. So it looks like this now. That'll catch a fish. Now we're going to add in some rubber legs. So I mentioned I take the green, and if you fold it over, it's the same length as the hook. So I am just going to lay this down right in front of the hook point. 3 wraps on each side, and then a couple extra wraps just to seal these in place. The only thing on this fly that's ever going to fail is these legs once UV light gets to it. So it looks like that now. Looks like a Chernobyl ant, which is what this basically is a giant Chernobyl ant floating bug. Right behind the hook eye, I'm going to take the second set of legs. This fly is stealthy. It has the silhouette of whatever a bass wants to think it is. It's extremely buoyant, indestructible, and easy to tie. All right, so all those rubber legs are on it now. I'm going to take my piece of pre-cut foam. You can buy these on my website. I'm going to take a bobbin, that little circular thing, and I'm just going to punch out a hole in this, right in the middle. Dropped it. Butterfingers. Go through there. All right, that's not wanting to punch, so I'm just going to make a little incision. So I got a hole right in the middle. I'm going to take the eye of the hook, I'm going to pop it through there, and now I'm going to fold it over and start beginning to wrap over the legs. This is why I do not teach this fly at beer tie, because of this step. It takes a little bit of coordination. So I'm going to split the first two legs up here. The second two legs are in the back. And I am just going to do some gentle wraps over them. If you pull too hard, you will cut the foam. First wrap, first segmentation. I'm going to peel the foam back, peel back all of the legs in the front. And now what I'm going to try and do is put this foam, I'm going to wrap it once like that. Hopefully underneath it, I did not have the foam exposed. You can see on this one, there's a couple of missed wraps. Gentle wraps here, making sure not to wrap down any rubber legs. A couple of little snug tugs. So that crystal flash chenille is just in there as filler. Imagine this is the chenille, the foam goes over it. Just kind of fills in the gaps. You can dead drift this, you can strip it. Again, when you tie it in with a non-slip mono loop, it will walk the dog. So now I'm going to wrap this one a couple times before I fold over the top foam. What that is allowing me to do is have this piece of foam kind of more tightly wound and away from that hook gap. And you saw that I originally used to use bass hooks for this. I just don't like the look on them. If I could get a straight, longer bass hook, I would be much happier and more inclined. So that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to solarize this. I got my solarize here. I got some epoxies back there. I don't need it. It's an extra step. I don't need a lack. It's foam. It's indestructible, right? I'm going to do a huge half hitch over it. Make sure all the rubber legs are out of the way. One more. 2 half hitches is all you need. If I've got this fly that's 17 years old in my box and 10-year-old ones in my car and fly boxes, it proves that they don't fall apart from 2 half hitches. So that's it. That's a Snowhite scorpion bug. I'm not even going to trim up the tail. That's what it looks like. You got to see it floating from below. It is an absolute fish catching machine. And I miswrapped one of those legs. So I am looking for a bodkin to pick it out with. Bodkin, bodkin. Here's a bodkin. Bring that leg forward. Okay. Now you have a perfectly balanced scorpion bug. I hope you try to tie this at home. If you got a fly shop that's still open and they need some bass flies, have them contact me. You can buy these at my Etsy store. You can buy these at my Square store, and you can also buy them on eBay. For any more information about this, why I tie it, and materials, please check out robsnowhite.com. You can go to the podcast on iTunes, Fly Fishing Consultant. And the next discussion is going to be all about poppers. A popper is just a backwards slider. I don't know where my Sneaky Pete went, but all you got to do is rotate it, and you have a popping bug. That's it. Thanks for watching. Happy quarantining. I'll see you later on this week.